Hi, good morning. My name is Louise Jupp. I'm the editor of Drone Professional One. This is a bestseller on Amazon. It's in Kindle and paperback format. It features 16 professional drone experts from around the world who give their current best thinking on drone technology, best practice, their experiences, case studies, thoughts on the future. And I have one of those experts with me here today from the Netherlands, Jasper Schmeits, from Tauw. And we're going to have a chat over a cup of coffee and chat about what Jasper had to say in the book. And yes, welcome, Jasper. I like the cup. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Cool, it's great. I'm looking forward to our chat. We've had a chat off camera, and I think we've got some good subjects to cover. So, what do you tell us? What do you do? What's your background?
I'm a chemical process engineer from origin, so I always say that I'm educated to design a shell plant. But in the beginning of my career, I really want to do something more sustainable. So I joined Tauw directly after my graduation, and I started within the environment studies for soil. Eventually I become a specialist in situ remediation, and that's a little bit also the similarity to what I do now with drones, but with in situ remediation you bring technology to the field instead of excavating polluted soil and bringing it to a cleaner. And the fun part is technology to the field. And also in the end of 2008, 2009, we already started with certain type of technologies where we bring analytical equipment from the laboratory to the field. And for me, it was a lot of work with XRF to measure heavy metals in the field. And through time that became my my specialty. With my analytical background, I think I know what they do in the laboratory, but I think the real work is done outside. And in 2010 already, I went to the management and I said, hey, guys, I see drones that they are popping up. And already a few companies, they were adapting to it. I said, this is technology that we have to have. And at that moment, some of those guys, they said, yeah, you're crazy. That's only toys and that's nothing for us. But nowadays, you only have to turn open the paper and every day you see some new application with those kind of equipment. And I think around 2017, I got a bigger task to really look at these kind of technological developments. What is popping up in the sensor industry that can help us in doing our work, our surveys, our business in another way. And in another way, I mean better, smarter, faster, more efficient. And drones is one of them. And I think from 2017 on, we really started in looking at the drones. And my first phrase in it was, yeah, a drone is fun, but it's only a carrier system. It's about the sensor, it's about the camera, it's about what you put on, and that's something you have to have knowledge about. So okay. I always say to other people that I have a fun job. I can try things out. I do new fun stuff, fail hard, and fail fast. That's also a slogan. Yes. But in the end, we have to learn from it. How can we adapt our business to it?
Okay. No, yes, I saw in your chapter you sort of referenced, you know, you were looking to streamline your processes, and I mean that is a common characteristic, isn't it, that comes out of a drone is that it improves efficiency pretty quickly, you know, in terms of data collection and solving problems.
Yeah.
And that's your, yeah. But it's interesting though, your chapter, you sort of say drones hype or here to stay. It's almost like you're suggesting, well, is this really something that, I mean, what do you cover in your chapter?
I think that drones for certain type of surveys or certain type of questionnaires, it's a phase between. It's the same as listening to music. We still know that we have a cassette tape that we had to put in, and in the end we got a CD-ROM, and nowadays everybody is listening to Spotify and online streaming. It's about technologies that evolve every time, and I don't say that drones will be evolved into new technologies, but I think that for certain type of usage, the advantage of the drone wouldn't be that big anymore. If you look at certain type of satellite data, the main problem with satellite, the usage of satellite data nowadays is resolution or the real accuracy. But already there are satellites that have really high resolution data on it, but then you have to pay a lot.
Yeah.
But in 10 years, and I already see some articles that are popping up now, digital terrain models from satellite data, they are getting more common. So if the data is already there in 10 years, I only have to Google it, and I get the data, and I don't have to travel to the location to map it anymore, then the drone isn't needed anymore. But for other examples, if you look at transport or what I also mentioned in my article, to bring my pizza at home, there is a real need in transport. So I'm also a little bit doubting what kind of technologies would still be on the drone and we still use in 10 years, and what kind of technologies would be replaced by something else. It's a struggle.
Yeah. No, I mean, yes, I mean, it's ironic, it's a digital product, and just like your laptop, you buy a new laptop and within moments it's out of date. You know, and I think the same happens with drones to a certain degree. I mean, how fast they keep coming out with new, better capabilities. And sometimes you almost wonder how long is a drone pilot, in the sense that we see it now, standing there with the remote control, going to actually still be needed, because I mean, there seems to be a general tendency towards autonomous drones and BV loss, and at what point does the pilot become, you know, not needed, apart from someone sitting in a box somewhere with, you know, looking after multiple drones maybe.
Yeah, I also get a lot of questions about that. When aren't we needed anymore? I get phone calls of colleagues that say, what you are doing with certain type of sensors of technology, stop with it directly, because that's going to cost me my job. And every time again, I have to explain that I see it in another way. If we don't adapt to these kind of technologies, and our competitors will, then we get quite a big problem in getting the products in, of the projects. If competitors can do it in a better, smarter, quicker, more efficient way, we don't have projects anymore. And every time on the phone I have to explain, if that occurs, then you don't have a job anymore, but I also have no job anymore. But adapting to these kind of technologies, Yeah, for sure. It will change your way of working. But there still has to be someone that knows how to cope with the technology. For example, when you are using water sensors, normally a worker in the field is going to collect those samples to bring them to the laboratory. But when you do it with a sensor, those kind of guys, they say, but yeah, then I don't have work anymore. But that's not correct, because still someone has to put the sensor in. If there is coming out some signal, what we didn't suspect, we have to send someone to it to look at what is happening there. Or when there is a damage or a crash, or it has to be replaced. You have to have people to do that kind of job. Yeah, for sure. The work will change, but you have to adapt to it, and that's maybe the fun part when you see it now in the Corona period. I'm a little bit surprised in how fast we can adapt to the new way of work, the same as we do now with video conferencing and everybody working from home. The speed in how we adapted it, and not only we as Tauw, but as a whole community, it's crazy. So
Yeah.
I don't say that we have to adapt in that quickness these kind of technologies. There isn't that big of a need to do it in such a hurry as we did now in the Corona period. But we can learn from it. We can see that another way of working is also a good opportunity, and it's also good for our environment. Less traffic movements, less pollutants in the air. It gives a lot of opportunities, I think.
No, I think you're right. It is incredible how fast many people have been able to sort of turn around and create different ways of doing the same business. And it does present some questions. You know, if we were this quick this time, maybe, you know, it's not going to be that hard to introduce new technologies, whether it's drone technology or drone, you know, something in relation to drone use. You know, now is the time to sort of gently push it, perhaps, and say, look, you know, we've adapted. This will make it even easier to carry on adapting in a different way, you know, and so on. But you know, it's interesting. Sorry, carry on.
To come back to the earlier question that you mentioned about is it a hype or is it here to stay? I think it's good that we have to think about where the future needs will be. As I mentioned, satellite data, I predict that in the end, it will cover a lot of things that drones do now. But from the sky, from the space, you aren't able to look at bridges from the underneath side, for example.
Yeah.
Or you have to place a mirror under it, but that would be a little bit hard, I think. But with inspections, with certain types of inspections, yeah, it would be perfectly, because you can't fly your satellite on a certain spot and really look into detail at a certain type of scratch or something. So on those kind of things, I think that drones really would be here to stay. But that's always a little bit the struggle. Where do you think it's a hype, or where do you think that's here to stay?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, you know, I agree with you about the satellite stuff. I've been to several conferences, and people that quite clearly use satellite data or get quite sort of, you know, mildly aggressive, sort of saying, well, don't just discount us because there's drones, we still have a value to play. And you've said it there. I mean, you know, I think we need to stop thinking of this in silos. The drone data integrated with satellite data is far more powerful than considering one only in each sort of thing. And equally, you know, the satellite data doesn't work if it's cloudy. So, you know, there's an alternative. You know, it's not, they're not, either aren't perfect, but together they offer far more power and management of, or availability of data, management tool, or whatever else it might be. So yeah, I think we need to get rid of this silo thinking, perhaps.
It's good that you mentioned the silo thinking. I see a lot that there are specialized companies that only work with drones. So you see that with every kind of technology. And those kind of companies, they have to be commercial. Of course, you have to earn money with the business that you do. But they go outside to potential clients and they say, okay, it can be done perfectly with a drone. And that's also a struggle with adapting these kind of technologies, that in every business you have certain type of cowboys. They say, oh, no problem, it can be done. And in the end, the results that come out weren't in that what was suspected. And we look at it a little bit different, because drones, we have 2 operators in-house that can fly with drones in the Netherlands. In the outer countries we have a few people more, but they do it aside with it. So they are able to fly with drones, but they also do other type of work. And we hire specialized parties that are really adapting the best technology of drones within the business. But every time in front of a project, we are looking at, okay, is drones the best solution? And does it provide the input that our client is needed? We don't have the focus on, okay, we have to fly with the drone every day, 2 times a day, because in the end that makes us money. What makes the money for us is to have happy clients. And if drones are the best way in solving that problem, for sure we will do that. But the mindset is a little bit different. And I also think that that's the same what you mentioned earlier, the connection with other technologies. So why don't you adapt data from drone with data of satellite, and using the positive things of both in the end product? And that's the fun part, that we are really looking at the question and the need, and put in the technology and the processing and the viewing possibilities that is needed to get the client's needs.
Yeah, it is such a catalyst, isn't it? You know, you put a drone on a table and everybody wants to figure out, how can we use this? How can we make the best of this? I love that part of the whole thing. Just inspires everybody. The eyes light up, you know. What can we do?
That's the fun part with drones. Everybody has an opinion about it. And it's so easy, because everybody knows, okay, drones, they fly and you can do a lot of stuff with it. Even when I go to the primary school of my kids, I only have to put the drone on and everybody has a smile. But we didn't look at the output, but only seeing the drone, people are smiling. That's the fun part. And if I compare it with the first technology where I really was pushing my time in, with the XRF, only the XRF, nobody knows what it means. It means X-ray fluorescency, and then still a lot of people don't know what it means. So I always have to explain what that equipment does, and it cost me five minutes of time to explain that it is used to measure metals. But with drones, everybody knows it immediately. That's the fun part.
Yeah. But I mean, sometimes that's a good point. But equally, isn't that where sometimes there's a bit of the hype? It is everybody thinks, you know, you sort of see it and you think it is going to solve everything. And a good salesman can have you purchasing a drone that probably you don't need or is too expensive. And, you know, everybody talks about the curve, the name I can't remember, you know, where there's a sort of dip now where everybody's gone through the hype and say again?
The S-curve, the innovation S-curve.
That's it. And, you know, you sometimes wonder if some of that we're accelerating down the slope is because people have been equally disappointed because they've been caught in the hype and they've bought a drone thinking it was going to solve everything. But then when it actually comes to using it, the weather that day can affect it. You know, whether you know how to use the sensor properly, whether you actually know how to fly properly. And of course, the regulations can affect whether or not you're going to fly or how or when. And suddenly, you know, you're looking at this and go, oh, I wasted all this money and all this time. And I kind of, you know, that's why I was interested with your title in some ways. I think some of the hype has a negative impact on whether or not people want to think that these are an option.
Yeah, I see the similarity with some project leaders within our business. I presented a lot of opportunities in what you can do with drones. And in the end, the feeling is there. Okay, drones can solve everything. And then they come back with questions of projects, and then I say, yeah, but for this specific part, you can better do it in another way, or you can do it in such a way. And then they are a little bit disappointed because in their mindset, the drones can do everything. But in the one hand, it's what you mentioned. Legislation is really an issue in the Netherlands that limits us in doing a lot of opportunities. And the people that we have in house only have the light permit, so they can do a lot of work in the outer countries or in the landscape countries. But really in the cities and near dense people, they aren't able to work. But for those kind of projects, we hire specialized parties that really have that permit in house. They are specialized in doing that kind of work. But for those project leaders, that's all, yeah, how do I call it? Rubbish or a little bit noise. They think the drone, it does that and that and that, and I'm able to gather the information that is needed. But that's maybe also a connection to the autonomous way. I really think that the people that are behind the drones, those are the specialized ones. They are keeping that they are needed because a lot of work that we have planned from our office, when they come in the field, I get a phone back. Oh, you thought it was like this and this, but the situation is different. They have to adapt in the field to how they cope with it. And you know also that certainly for drones, how you operate it, how you put the angle of the camera, or how you fly with it, it's that essential in getting the best data out of it. So I don't think that the drones will replace our people that are going outside, but it helps them in doing their work better. And better can be more accurate or faster or more efficient or even more fun. That's also something that's really important. The work has to be fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah. I mean, you do actually mention that on, I think, in your chapter with threats and challenges. And you know, going back to your point about the regulations, and equally you make a point about whether or not the data is legally accepted. That's an interesting perspective. You know, perhaps, what do you mean by that?
Now we have a lot of protocols. So a lot of work is standardized in protocols, and it says, okay, if you do it like such a traditional way, the output is accepted. For example, we have an obligation here in the Netherlands that when we have to transport a large of piles with soil, you have to have a document, and that document says that pile is this big, and the quality of the pile is analyzed by the laboratory. And based on the volume, you have to measure statistically where you have to put your drillings, because you have to have exactly 100 samples out of the pile. 50 samples go in the one bucket and 50 samples go in the other bucket. But normally this is done traditionally by hand. So they walk aside a pile and they measure the volume, and based on the volume they calculate what are the grids where I have to put my drillings. And the strange way is that in the protocol it still said that 25% of difference between the real volume and the calculated volume is accepted. 25%. It's crazy. Flying over with the drone and mapping the location and calculating the grid out of it with a simple drone from the media market. It only isn't that expensive. It can give an accuracy about 1 or 2% difference between the actual and the calculated value. But in the protocol, it isn't mentioned that those results are acceptable. So we have to do a lot of work in convincing those kind of parties that create protocol that the new way of mapping it is way better than the old way, and that has to be accepted. But that already costs us more than a year to get those people convinced that the new way of working can be accepted. It's crazy.
Deeply frustrating, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've not heard of that angle before. You know, it's always been talk of the sort of national regulations. I've not seen it come down to a more specific, as you say, monitoring or measuring protocol, and that is an interesting thought. I wonder what other people have encountered in that regard. Have you found whether or not sort of the current situation with COVID-19 have you seen a change in the drone industry? You know, have the regulations been relaxed a bit for their use in as part of the response, or have you seen anything positive either way with the current situation?
Yeah, you see that it has an effect on how many projects come around. Because a lot of those specialized companies, they have a lot of jobs in doing surveys, but that's also because the density of people on locations isn't there. People are away, they don't travel anymore, so it's easier in doing certain type of surveys now. And a lot of governmental businesses, they use that now to map what they need. In the other hand, you also see that drones are used to map people at the beachside if they have 1.5 meters distance from each other. And okay, with a drone, with a microphone on it, you can do that. The police does it, but I don't really think that gives the right image to the drone world. It's there to look at us in a Big Brother kind of way. It's a solution, but I don't think that would be the smartest way in promoting our business. So
I can agree with you more.
Kind of things, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's one of my biggest concerns. It's consolidating the spying for civilian drones. I mean, we know that military drones are used for reconnaissance and things like that, but in the civilian context, I'm not quite a bit worried about that. But I'm just, I thought it, sorry.
That's maybe also another thing, that civilian drones, as a company, you have to have regulations, rules, and all those kind of things. But as a normal civilian, in the middle of Amsterdam, people fly with their drones and they make nice pictures. But from Schiphol, it's totally not allowed to do that. But yeah, those people just do it. And for companies, it's sometimes quite hard to do those kind of surveys, and that's a little bit a struggle. And you also see that, and then I come back to the cowboy mentioning what I said earlier. There are companies or people within companies that use their private drones to map something without that they have permits or something, and that those kind of information is used in company as real result. They are bending the rules. It's not allowed, but it's not fair, and that's also makes it a little bit hard. Do I have to call the police? I see that those kind of people are doing something that's not allowed because they don't have a permit. No, I don't do it, but it's not fair in the competitive way. But you see it a lot.
Yeah. Yes.
When you look at the business in selling houses, you see a lot of movies made from drones from the house, but for sure a lot of those people don't have permits, but they are not able to, but they use it commercially.
Yes. Yeah, the same happens here. I won't go along that one. That one gets me going a bit.
but on the other hand, I think we as Tauw, we have the obligation to do it as the rules are set. I'm not entirely good with the rules. I think that rules are a little bit too hard, and I hope that European legislation will come quickly. But on the other hand, the rules are there, so we have to cope with it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, we're sharing airspace with others. I mean, we're sharing airspace with manned aviation, but we're also sharing with other professional drone users. You know, and yeah, there's a respect and a responsibility that I think is perhaps sometimes missing in training, or just in, you know, even if you're just watching YouTube to learn how to fly, the message isn't coming across that these are not toys. The majority, I mean, you know what a toy is when it's about it, but you know, if you're flying a Phantom, you've got a serious piece of kit there. And if it falls out of the sky, it's going to hurt someone, etc., etc. And you need to treat these things with respect, and equally the other people that you're flying with. So no, I agree with you about the rules, but they do get bent. Because I mean, how do you catch someone? I think this is the biggest problem all countries face, is they've got all these regulations, but how are they being policed and enforced? And it's very, you know, until we've got built-in systems that help you track where a drone is and equally where the person is who's flying it, you know, you can fly these things with impunity.
Yeah, so there are already some tests in tracking system in drones, and I think that wouldn't be such a big a problem for us if it will be tracked continuously. We do it like the rules are set. So for me, it wouldn't be a problem to have a tracker in it. But for a lot of other companies that are bending the rules a little bit, yeah, I think they would be and not so fun with it.
Yeah, no, I agree, absolutely. I just want to come back to something in your book, which I thought is kind of ironic with today's situation. You sort of finish off saying that you know, that this is the drone industry, drone technology is really innovative, but in some ways it's removing people from exposure, you know, whether it's deliveries, you don't see someone delivering your pizza anymore. This drone could be delivering your pizza. You could be collecting samples without people. And I thought it was kind of ironic that you were sort of concerned that perhaps that we would eliminate personal contact as a consequence of drones becoming more prolific. It would seem today that's what we want, you know, to limit risk of exposure to COVID-19.
Yeah, but I also think that a lot of people now encounter that that wouldn't be the solution. That we need social contact, and we need in certain ways to have the pizza guy say hello and how are you doing. Okay, with the corona, it has a large effect, and that's a little bit what I'm proud of, that we can adapt in that quickness to these kind of changes. All kinds of business, also restaurants that still go on with work, but only that you can take a takeoff instead of being at a restaurant. So to adapt to those kind of changes is good, but if you go back to the social contact, I think that most of the people dislike that they don't see their grandparents or other people. So if it's needed, okay, you can arrange it. But in a lot of points, I have the doubt: do we want it? Do we want it to get rid of it? But because it is also a lot of work of people, of certain type of people. And then I will get a phone call again. Okay, my job is crashed because the drone is going to fly my drone. Fly my pizza.
Yes.
Yeah. But that has nothing to do with the techniques or the possibilities or the technologies of drones. It has all to be done with what do we want as people. What does our behavior want? I don't have the answer to it. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, to me, what drives deliveries more is a humanitarian or medical or, you know, that kind of need. I mean,
where the speed is important. Where the speed of the delivery is important.
Absolutely, or even the remoteness of somewhere. You know, like I was talking to Annalise yesterday, and she's talking about the medical deserts, and even rural parts of any country can be difficult to get to. So yeah, and to me that seems to be driving more of the delivery rather than having Amazon drop your parcels or someone deliver your pizzas, because, you know, again, I'm not sure people are ready to have that buzzing noise all around them.
But the main reason for Amazon or the pizza company to do it is to bring the pizza more cheaply to the location. In the end, more cheaply isn't not always the best. If you look at the emerging possibilities, the social part doesn't matter at that moment. It's needed to get a certain type of equipment to a certain type of location, and as fast as possible and safe, of course. If the drone is better than with a Jeep, yeah, why not? But then it's not the commercial need isn't there. It's about getting the product in the fastest way on the final destination.
Yeah, but it also seems to be accepted by people who live in the route, if you know what I mean. Oh, that's going. You know, that's a medical drone. It's saving a life, so to speak. Whereas when it's someone's pizza,
another yeah, it affects another behavior with people if it's about medical.
Exactly, that's it. But no, I mean, yeah, I mean, this industry is still so young, but it's fascinating how it's evolving, and equally how it just brings in so many other different topics, whether it's privacy, whether it's data management, whether it, you know, it's more than just the platform, which is the drone. There's so much more that surrounds this. But, that's fascinating. I love it.
I'm curious about how this will this business will be there in 5 or 10 years. I really think it makes a change, and the amount of airplanes that you normally see flying in 5 or 10 years, do we see that amount of drones flying?
Yeah, it's especially the sort of
I'm
air
a little bit
transport.
afraid of it.
You what? Sorry.
I'm a little bit afraid. I'm a little bit afraid
Okay.
a lot of drones will be flying there. I don't know if we have to want it.
Yes. Yeah, I wonder how this is all going to evolve. I wish I could get in a time machine and just see, look in 10 years' time, just see how, and look back on this video and go, crumbs, was that what we were thinking 10 years ago?
You have to look at the movie Back to the Future again. They also
Oh, yes. Yes.
go one time into the future, and that's also a little bit the futuristic part of Hollywood. A lot of technologies that are presented there, in the end, they will become real.
Yes.
Flying cars in Back to the Future in the 80s, it's already introduced. Yeah, nowadays we don't surprise anymore if those flying cars will be there. The question only is when. So I also look a lot to Hollywood. Just to I like those films for the first part, but a lot of technologies that are in those films, I really think about, okay, how do you really can adapt it to business, to our world? Because a lot of it is possible. And technology really gets faster and quicker and more advanced. So I think that in the coming 10 years, there will be a lot of changes in how we cope with the world. And hopefully this Corona also reflects that sustainability and taking care of our own world, that it's getting a little bit to a higher level on the agenda. But yeah, we will see. If we are going to go back to the normal before the Corona, or that we are going to learn from this period, we will see.
Yes, I hope we learn. That's my preference, that we'll learn from this and adapt. I mean, we've proven now we can adapt very quickly. Lots of people have been able to, you know, turn around their businesses, create different ways of doing the same thing. So I sincerely hope that this enforced innovation continues, and we find different ways of doing business, at least, or just how we be together, you know, in some shape or form. No, it's interesting. Cool. How can someone get a hold of you? How can they reach out to you if they want to talk to you more or use your services?
They can look at my LinkedIn profile and send me a message. That would be the easiest part. In the book, the link is in the book. Even my phone number and the address of Tauw is in it. So there are multiple ways in getting in contact with me.
Great. Okay, thank you. So first of all, go and buy the book. Otherwise, have a look underneath the video and I'll put your links there. Okay. Well, thanks very much for your time. I will draw it to close because I know we can carry on chatting, but perhaps we'll save that for another time, actually. But I'll draw this to a close and say again.
It was fun again.
Yeah, it was. Hey, yeah, no, thank you for that. But yeah, to the audience, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. As we said just now, here it is. This is Drone Professional 1. It is available in Kindle and paperback format. It really is an interesting read. There we go. Jasper's got his copy there. Excellent. So yeah, it is a great read. If you want to understand the professional drone industry, if you want to understand it, this book will give you a good introduction. If you're not sure about it, you still have your suspicions, have a look at this. This is professionals talking about how to use drones and drone technology and the data they produce properly. Anyway, thank you again for watching. And as always, please keep safe and please keep well. Cheers.
Thank you.